To the afternoon sports drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster here with you on this Tuesday. Levi Peckinpah's along for the ride as well, and we are live out here at Karsten Creek, where the NCAA Stillwater Regional is continuing to take place. Oklahoma State hosting, and they came into today in first place, leading by just a couple of shots ahead of, I believe it was Illinois. Right now, they come in at first place, and they have created some ground as well. How about that? In between them and Illinois, shooting a -20 right now is Oklahoma State. Illinois at -13 is what they came into. And then today, Oklahoma State so far shooting a -3, and Illinois shot a +2. So you've had Oklahoma State continuing to coming in. Yesterday it started a little slow, Zach, but they really picked it up at the end of that second round, and have continued to kind of do that so far today. The top 5 teams will obviously advance here. So you've got Oklahoma State in first, Illinois, SMU, Baylor, and Auburn. Auburn and Sam Houston are currently tied for 5th right now. So those two obviously battling out for a chance to move on. But, Zach, safe to say the atmosphere here has been, it looks awesome. We've had there's a lot of fans out here, as we can attest to. Coming out, it was, I think, free admission to get out here and just come watch Oklahoma State golf. That has a really solid team once again this season. A few individual guys that you really pay attention to all year long, as they went through and shot a 288 in round 1, a 271 yesterday in round 2, and then of course round 3, which we believe will probably wrap up sometime by the time we're actually wrapping up as well, most likely. They've had to deal with a little bit of a lightning delay today, but OSU golf right now holding on to that first place spot.
Yeah, if you look at it, they're through the 8th and 9th holes right now, so they still got a ways to go. And if they take the top 5 teams, if I'm Sam Houston, I'm a little nervous because they're anywhere between the 6th, and this is kind of weird. They're anywhere between the 6th and 18th hole.
I see that.
which is really weird.
Where does that
I feel like that's like a typo, maybe
scattered around.
But you look at the next 3 teams. You look at Auburn, you look at Little Rock, you look at Northwestern. Sam Houston's 10 over on the day, or 10 over, and they're 6 over on the day. But you look at 6th, and then you look at tied for 7th, Little Rock and Northwestern. Auburn's +11, and then you look at Little Rock and you look at Northwestern, they're +14. So if you're Sam Houston, you're like, oh my God, we really need to step it up because we very easily could go home. But I love coming out here to Karsten. This was the first golf tournament I'd ever been to, the national championship a few years ago. Now, obviously, it's not on the same level because that was the national championship, but I would have to say there's at least a few hundred cars out there.
Yeah.
We had to park a few miles away, took a shuttle.
Yeah.
I pulled up a tweet yesterday from Jared Gallagher. When you go clubhouse to clubhouse and you follow it around, you're just over 5.5 miles. So if you love golf and you've got good golf shoes, there's almost no better course in the country to follow golf around than Karsten Creek.
Yeah, and it's dry right now as we speak. I mean, it's I think this is one of the days we might escape some of the rain. Like the rest of the week, it's going to come down, but you're kind of getting it in at the moment, which is good. To try to complete this, obviously, the NCAA Golf Regional again here at Karsten Creek with in Stillwater, and Oklahoma State getting to host and leading the field right now as they are through the 8th and 9th holes. Coverage today is brought to you by University and Community Federal Credit Union, 311 East McElroy. They have exciting news because you're going to have a new brand, new name, but the same great credit union. Starting on June 1st, UCFCU will become Oklahoma Community Credit Union. You can welcome the next evolution of your credit union when University and Community Federal Credit Union once again becomes Oklahoma Community Credit Union. Also brought to you by Advantage Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. When you call Advantage at 405-780-6637 for service, there's no diagnostic fees with recommended repairs, so make sure you give them a call because warm weather is here and it's going to continue to get even warmer, and make sure your air conditioning unit is ready for the challenge. We have a lot to get to here today on the afternoon sports drive. Coming up at about 15 minutes, we'll talk with Frank Bonner, as we always do on Tuesdays, and see what he has to say about some of the latest OSU news. We'll take a look at a position group coming up for Oklahoma State football, too, and much more to get to throughout the show as well. Let's start it off and take a look. This was something we were going to dive into yesterday. We didn't have time, so we'll take a look at it today. The latest in the Aaron Rodgers saga continues to come down the pipe, and apparently, as of yesterday, the Packers have made it clear to a couple of reporters that while they say they plan on not trading Aaron Rodgers, they do say that when this does happen at some point, potentially, they want a quarterback back in this trade. And I think that's something that is kind of your next step forward that we've wanted to hear solidified with these guys. Mm-hmm. But it does tell me a couple of things. One, and the main one here, is what they've seen out of Jordan Love so far isn't enough. And they haven't seen him in any live situations, but they have seen him for the past year and a half or so now in practice situations and situations where you would basically have to come in and fill in those second-team reps. And whatever they've seen, they're not confident that if Aaron Rodgers were to leave today, he would be the guy that would slide in, and then all of a sudden you'd be good to go. And I told you guys the other day, I said, look, the Packers would look terrible if after all of this Jordan Love turned out to be a bust. But the question is, will he ever even get a chance to show that he's a bust or not? And obviously, to me, it kind of garners more interest for two teams that have movable quarterbacks right now. One is clearly with the Denver Broncos, and the other is with, you look at the Raiders. And you're coming in with Derek Carr, and you're like thinking to yourself, where do I move these guys around? Because if you're in the AFC West, you clearly have just a couple of options here if you're the Raiders. You're thinking, one, we take our chance on Aaron Rodgers. And if that happens, that means that we could actually stay afloat in an AFC West right now that is coming up with this quarterback class in Patrick Mahomes, who's generational talent, best quarterback right now in the entire league. Justin Herbert, who looks like he is coming up to be one of the best in the league at the time. Of course, we've only seen 1 year, but he was fantastic. And if you're the Raiders, think about it this way, too. If you weren't able to get Aaron Rodgers and the Broncos were still that team that slid in and right now and is leading the odds markets in Vegas and all this, too, to get him, if the Broncos get that, then you're on the outside looking in. You're like, hey, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, we have Derek Carr. And he's over here, and he's like, hey, guys, can I join in that group? No, the answer is no, you can't. Now, he had a decent season last year. I get that. But the Raiders can see themselves potentially slipping away if they don't make a big move here. So while I still think the Broncos make the most sense, if you want to talk about where he's going to land, tell me the Raiders aren't in a spot where they can make a giant move right now.
I think if you're Las Vegas, you need to do anything and everything you can. Now, if you're Green Bay, you're looking at this situation and you're like, okay, yeah, if we're willing to trade him, we're going to want a quarterback back. I don't know if you're going to look at those two teams and be like, okay, yeah, we'll trade Aaron Rodgers, but we want a quarterback. Like, what quarterback on those two teams would Green Bay be like, you know what, that guy there, he can lead us to a championship?
That's what I'm saying. If you were to look at Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, who's still in the mix now with the Broncos too, and Derek Carr.
That ain't it.
No, but they're probably got to lean towards Derek Carr in that situation.
You would have to think, but it's not like, I mean, that's a bad trade. So if you're Green Bay, you're looking at it, you're thinking, okay, we'll take Derek Carr, but we're going to need 2 first-round picks, one this year, one next year. We're going to need a third-round pick, and you better find another team because we need to sweeten this pot a little bit.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. If you were to get Derek Carr, is it ideal with the return? Not necessarily, but like you said, when you do get Derek Carr, that you're getting multiple first-round picks on the way.
And
so
hopefully high enough that you can take a quarterback.
And it would have to be. So
Absolutely.
you're thinking to yourself, all right, whether it's a year down the road or whatever that we get these picks, or 2 years down the road, maybe, just maybe, we get Derek Carr to come in and he succeeds in this system. He has Devontae Adams. That's of course thinking Devontae Adams sticks around if Aaron Rodgers doesn't. But he has Devontae Adams to throw to. He's got a really solid running back in Aaron Jones. We have a defense we really believe in, and he gets to be taught by Matt LaFleur and company. So maybe he does fall into some success there. Oh, and by the way, if he doesn't, we can maybe try Jordan Love out, and just maybe he is the guy. Now, we're obviously in a much different position because we were thrilled to have Aaron Rodgers, and we felt confident in that. But now we're kind of guessing on these quarterbacks. I know there are some believers in Derek Carr, and again, if he moved over to Green Bay, he could have some wildly successful multiple seasons. I mean, who's to think? In a couple of years, we're talking about, Green Bay's with their new franchise quarterback, and all of a sudden Derek Carr is blossoming. And again, I'm bullish on that because I've seen enough out of him to think to myself, all right, I think I can see his ceiling. But it is interesting for the Packers to kind of be like, we're going to need a quarterback back in this. Why? Well, Jordan Love just not the guy. He just really isn't. And so with those options, I mean, it's not great. Levi, if you had to pick, are you going with Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, or Derek Carr in return for Aaron Rodgers?
Derek Carr in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. It's not really an actual competition if I got to pick between those guys, because Derek Carr is a former 3-time Pro Bowler, was at one point close to an MVP. He was like third and fourth in MVP voting before an injury. He has shown great spots at one point, plus at that point he will be able to go to a franchise that won't be trying to shop him every other 5 minutes but can't succeed because they'll never pull the trigger. To me, it would be a good fit over there in Green Bay. I think it would work out all right because in my mind, Derek Carr is a franchise QB. I'm not talking elite QB. I'm talking a franchise QB. And he's been able to do it for Oakland-Las Vegas for about 6-7 years now. And he's been pretty good. I'm pretty sure he leads Oakland all-time in a bunch of various stats. He's a decent QB, and he's done a decent job with what he's been given. And half the time, he's been given a shredded-up offense with truly only about one weapon at a time. He's done really well with what he's given. Now imagine Derek Carr with one of the best wide receivers in the league, a wide receiver group with a lot of other guys trying to prove themselves. Robert Tonyan, who is a touchdown machine, and a decent offensive line that hasn't been fully scrapped in one season. I mean, for Derek Carr, that would be a great spot, and then you get a bunch of first-round picks from trading Aaron Rodgers. I feel sorry for Jordan Love because he's basically DOA by everybody's thoughts and how everybody sees Jordan Love. He's not even going to get a shot, and I feel very sorry for him because this is not the situation that he wanted to go into. He wanted to sit behind somebody for a little bit and then eventually work his way into a starting spot. Everybody's basically counting him out right now, and I kind of feel sorry for him.
Yeah, how crazy is that for Jordan Love? He's sitting there, and you have to think when he gets drafted, or he's probably like, wow, the Packers moved up to grab me. That means they've obviously seen a lot in me, and then I get to sit under Aaron Rodgers and potentially learn here a lot. And when my time comes and they call my number, I'm going to go out there and succeed. And all of a sudden it's turned into not only was he in the most awkward position out of all of these parties that we've been talking about, the other part is he might not even get a chance, which is wild. Yeah. Now, that's not to say, look, if the Packers brought in Derek Carr, does it necessarily mean right away that he's the guy? I mean, probably so, but I would have to believe that they're thinking to themselves, Jordan Love's got to be kind of guy, that next guy up, and then maybe the leash is a little bit shorter than we thought if things start to slip away. But still, that's not ideal for a guy like Jordan Love. It seems like his trajectory in the league has really taken a downward nosedive. Man, clearly with what he was going to do when he came in there.
It's how to crush your confidence 101. He hasn't even set a foot on an NFL field. He hasn't even had it down, and everybody's has him counted out. He is in the worst possible situation I've seen a QB in since Josh Rosen. He has gotten the short end of the stick at every opportunity. And most likely, because of how everything's going to go, since they're going to want a QB back, and it's not surprising, if it's Derek Carr, they are going to be fine. They will be fine because Derek Carr will put them in the best situation, and he'll have a decent year. Jordan Love, at that point, will be extremely expendable since they already have Blake Bortles on the roster. I feel sorry for Jordan Love, and this is just not a situation any QB should be in if they haven't even had it down in the NFL.
And I'm telling you guys, too, we mentioned the Raiders and we mentioned the Broncos, but you have to think that the Giants are still somewhat of a dark horse in this whole mix.
I would think so.
Right? Because you're talking about quarterbacks that they would move. You think the Giants wouldn't be happy to send Daniel Jones back over there?
Daniel Jones' toughness screams Green Bay.
Yeah, he's just such a tough guy. He would fit in with everything they like to do over there. Yeah, that's one of the all-time great lines. I can't believe he said that.
New York has such a weird fixation over Daniel Jones, and I still don't understand it. I just don't understand what you see in him. I mean, because he's not even as good as Eli Manning was.
Yeah, well, remember when Eli was struggling and New York fans were like, Daniel Jones, get him in there.
Right.
We have to have him in there. And it was, like 2-3 games that were like, Eli, please come back.
Yeah.
We need you back in here. I felt so bad for Eli, man. I thought they did him really dirty at that time. But Daniel Jones, man, yeah, if he doesn't succeed this year, he never will. But just imagine Aaron Rodgers with the weapons they've put together over there on that Giants team. I just think that would be really, really scary, and I wouldn't count them out. They'd be an interesting team if you were putting money on them in Vegas. I'd definitely lean towards putting a little towards the Giants, because that could end up being a big payout at some point. But I'm with you guys. For the most part, I think he's. I know we've had back and forth on this, but I think he's potentially on the move at this point, and the Raiders obviously have a lot to gain by putting him on the squad, because if not, you're looking at potentially giving him to the Broncos. Next thing you know, there's 3 other quarterbacks in that division, and you have a good chance of finishing dead last, and it might not even be close. The Giants the same way. I mean, they want to get into it and have a competitive team again in the NFC East now that Dak is back with the Cowboys and all of that. So there is a lot of intrigue there, but the Packers have said, look, if we're going to deal Aaron Rodgers, we better get a quarterback back. And then on the other side, you have Jordan Love that's like, guys, I still exist. And they're like, dude, no, you don't. No, you don't exist. And it's just, I'm with you, Levi. I'm not sure I've seen a situation that's been half, one part more awkward and the other part more frustrating for a guy like Jordan Love, who, has been in a spot where it's like, I haven't even been able to do or say anything here, and I'm probably still one of the most hated guys right now in the league because of what's going on with Aaron Rodgers, at least maybe by some Packers fans. And then on the other side of it, it's like, man, if I don't ever get to prove myself here in Green Bay, then how will I ever show what I actually have? Because we haven't seen him do anything at the next level, and there's still a lot left to be desired, I think, at that spot.
Yeah, it's a really weird situation for everybody to deal with, and it's definitely one that I know Aaron Rodgers honestly wish he hadn't had to be in, but with how the management is, it's just one of those things. And it's just, no one I think's really going to be winning in this whole thing. Even if Aaron Rodgers ends up in a new spot, there's a big chance it's going to be under the nose of Patrick Mahomes, and whoever's going to be the starting QB in Green Bay, they're going to have the highest of highest scrutiny, because they're taking over Aaron Rodgers' spot, the league MVP. So no one's going to win in this. Even the draft picks in Green Bay, it wouldn't surprise me if the draft picks and everything that they get over in Green Bay, if Green Bay has a bad year, it wouldn't surprise me if they ship the GM if Aaron Rodgers ends up having a good year wherever he is and Green Bay doesn't make the playoffs. Like, there's not really a big win situation for anybody unless Jordan Love probably gets the opportunity that he deserves at the starting QB spot. That's the only way I can see someone coming out of this mess in a positive light. Besides that, to me, no one else wins. Wait, Blake Bortles wins because he got a roster spot for another year.
Yeah, Blake Bortles living the life, as Zach likes to say, the best position there is. The backup, maybe not even a backup. He's like a third-string QB potentially.
You make millions of dollars to do what? Nothing.
Hold the clipboard, or hold the. It's not clipboards anymore. Hold the Microsoft Surface tablet and point out where we went wrong. We come back on the afternoon sports drive. Frank Bonner's going to join us. That's coming up next.
Oh, screaming out at the top of my lungs, 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 tell the world that I found the one. Whoa, my baby's finer than the golden sun, sun. You make my heart beat like a bass drum. Listen to me now. I've been touched by an angel.
Welcome back into the afternoon sports drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, and Levi Peckinpah here with you on this Tuesday, live from Carson Creek at the NCAA Stillwater Regional, where the OSU Cowboys continue to dominate, shooting -5 today. They continue to rock and roll. They're through holes 8 to 11 right now. Right behind them, the next closest up, Illinois, shot +3 today. So OSU is on their way here. As we've said, the top 5 teams will advance out of this pool, and they will definitely be one of, if not the number one, to get through here. So joining us here on this Tuesday, as always, is Frank Bonner from the Tulsa World, who covers Oklahoma State. Frank, what's going on today?
Hey, I'm doing all right. You hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Getting some workout. Went on a run already, so I got that out the way.
That's always good. You get that. I'm one of those guys that when I'm running, it has to be done early, because if not, then I'm just like dreading it the rest of the day, and then I end up not doing it. That's how I am with that. It's not good. So I thought today we would take a look at. We've been doing kind of a position group series with Frank the last few weeks and stuff for Oklahoma State football, looking ahead to next season. I thought we'd take a look at the tight ends, or of course as they're called in Oklahoma State territory, the Cowboy backs. And Frank, I got to say, from last year, and I've been in this camp really since the entirety of last season went down, but I thought Jelani Woods was severely underused. I mean, that was just me. I know there's some people that agree and some people disagree with that, and I know people always say, oh, he didn't have the best hands, and I can certainly agree that there were some problems with that at times, but to me, he was kind of the ideal red zone target and everything there. But I thought he was underused. Do you agree with that or no?
Yeah, and I think, I think a lot of people who watch him closely would agree with you about him being underused, and I don't think it's a coincidence that, he ends up leaving to try to go somewhere where he hopes that they're going to use him more. But yeah, I think with the hands that he had, and red zone opportunities and things of that nature, I definitely think he was underused in that area. And I think that probably played a factor in why he's no longer with them.
Yeah, no, I would completely agree. I think it's right up there with the top reasons of why he is no longer with Oklahoma State too. And I know that Mike Gundy, he doesn't utilize the tight end position a ton as a pass catching one in this offense that they run. But do you see that changing anytime soon?
I'd be interested to see. I mean, I know obviously Casey Dunn is not new to the team, to the coaching staff, but he's a new offensive coordinator. I wonder if he's going to put his own little wrinkles in there and to use that. And I think it makes them a better football team if they do, but sometimes you get in a situation where you do things like you've always done. And so I hope we see it more, but I'm not too confident that we will.
Well, we talk a lot about how important a running back can be catching the ball. Sometimes as a bailout for quarterbacks and a dump-off situation, that type of thing. And I've kind of always thought that tight ends can be utilized the same at certain times, and that could be something that even could potentially help a quarterback like Spencer Sanders if he knows not only could an outlet be a running back, but sometimes a tight end.
Yeah, and especially in the red zone, because the shorter the field, the more crowded it is back there. If you're 10 yards from the touchdown or even closer. And having a tight end with a big body that can get wide and be a large target for your quarterback, that helps. But you've got to put in the play call to allow that to happen. And so I do think if you use your big bodies more, as pass catchers in the red zone, that will help Spencer Sanders be more comfortable, because then you put yourself in a situation where you become predictable, 5-6 yards, from the goal line. Everybody's going to expect you to run. Well, if you do a play action, looking at your tight end, you can catch defenses on their heels.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. We're talking to Frank Bonner here on the afternoon sports drive. So for you, what does a guy like Logan Carter bring to the table this season as being the number one at that spot?
Well, for one, he's been in the program for a while, and so it's not like he has to learn anything, right? So you've got a Cowboy back who knows the system, and I think that's the main key. You don't have to worry about his knowledge of the playbook or anything like that. And then we talk about Jelani Woods not getting a lot of opportunities in terms of pass catching. Well, Logan Carter being the second guy, it's not like he got a whole lot either. So I'm curious to see if how good his hands are in terms of if catching the ball, if you give him a lot of targets. And so I think early on in these first games, let him show that. Let him prove if he can be a pass catcher that can be reliable in these first non-conference games.
Yeah, no, you're right, because we saw him scarcely involved in the passing game last year too, like you said, sitting behind Jelani, and for you kind of said there you want to see more of it. Is it fair to say that maybe we haven't even been able to kind of draw our own conclusions as a fan base or anybody watching him? It's like, well, can he catch passes? Can he run with the ball after the catch, and can he run through guys? And it's probably fair to say, right, we haven't really seen him given that real opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, any feedback you have on Logan Carter, whether it's criticism or positive feedback, it's hard to say that with confidence just because the sample size is so small for him. And so, I mean, if you ask, the coaching staff, you assume they know spring ball and all that, and he's been in the program, so you would think they would have a better idea of what he can and can't do. But in terms of real game action, throw him out there, give him a chance to show if he can catch the ball and break a few tackles. But I think, we talked about, Jelani Woods, this is why he left and everything, but, a lot of these players trying to get a shot at the NFL is the ultimate goal for a lot of these players. And I know from a coaching staff, you're trying to win ball games, but put him in a position to be most successful. Like, just give him a shot. And if he drops balls, then that's not your guy to do that, but you got to at least give him a chance to prove himself.
No, I 100% agree. And we're talking to Frank Bonner here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. Does the blocking aspect, though, of that position maybe take on a stronger identity this year because of, one, how deep the running back room is, and then two, how much Oklahoma State may actually run the ball this season again?
Yeah, I think it does. I think this offense is going to be run heavy, you assume, just with the versatility they've got at the running back position. And so at the Cowboy back, you're going to be able, you're going to have to be able to block and hold your blocks. And so I think, if you're the coaching staff and if you're, Logan Carter, obviously your top priority is making sure your blocking is top notch, because that's what they're going to need from you. But like we said, if your blocking is top notch and the running game is moving and everything, folks are going to automatically look for you to be a blocker. And so if, you throw a wrinkle, one or two plays, you slip out, nobody's going to be looking for you as a pass catcher, because the majority of your plays, you're going to be a blocker. And so I think the blocking can really work to his advantage in terms of freeing him up for the passing game. So I think, blocking is going to be extremely important for that position.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, because it could be a situation where it's a sneaky position all of a sudden to try to get the football for sure, and force teams to try to cover that, which is never easy at times. Do you have an idea of maybe who the next guy up at that position might be this year? Who's going to be your Logan Carter this season? Because we know he was number 2 last year.
To be honest with you, I do not, just because the Cowboy back is such a limited position in terms of seeing them on the field not blocking. And so I'm curious to see who the number 2 guy is, because I don't necessarily have a front runner for that. I don't know if you do or not.
I think Zach might.
Zach does.
Zach does. Who's your front runner for that?
It'd be Austin Gerard.
Yeah. Okay.
He's a junior college JUCO. He's coming out of American River Community College. He was pretty good last year. First team all conference. As a freshman, he had 26 receptions for 310 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's the guy that's gonna. I think he'll come in. And something you have to remember, if you look at the Cowboy backs, Oklahoma State doesn't necessarily go after true tight end guys. You look at Jason McIndoe, he's going after the small town country boy who, he's running a wishbone offense, and he's running a lot of I formation, and he's mainly used for blocking. Yeah. So when you look at a guy like Austin Gerard coming out, he was really good. Now he'll be a good blocker too, but I think that's going to be your Blake Jarwin-esque type Cowboy back coming out of, and he's not even here yet. I think that's what's impressive. Now obviously we're going to need to see him, but everything we've seen so far, he looks to be pretty good.
Now, do you think he's going to be in a position to where he can get some touches, being behind Logan?
I think he'll need to have a pretty extensive offseason. I think he'll need to. I think he'll need to come in June, and I'm sure he's working now. You know, I'm sure they've sent him. Coach Glass has sent him a workout plan, and he's busting it out there in California. But you look at what, you know, when he gets here in June, I think he's really going to have to hoof it. But I think before it's all said and done, I think you're going to see him. I think you're going to see him competing and putting Logan Carter in a position that he's going to have to work for his job by the end of the season. And then after this year, Austin Gerard I think he's a huge dark horse this year, and I think he'll be the guy going into the 22 season.
Talking to Frank Bonner here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. Frank, let me flip you over to basketball here real quick, because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've actually spoken with you since the Bryce Thompson news came down the other day. So were you surprised to see him eventually select Oklahoma State?
No, going in, I figured that would be the call. I mean, I know him and his family has ties to Tulsa, but you know, as a player of his stature and his aspirations, you want to go to a program that's going to put you in the best position to, you know, compete in tournaments and you know, the best role for success for him individually, I think, was OSU.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what we were talking about as well yesterday. What do you expect his role to be specifically, you know, gelling with a guy like Avery Anderson this next season?
You know, that's going to be interesting to watch. And I know he didn't have the freshman season that he wanted to at Kansas, and he had the injuries. But it's not like OSU is lacking in that area in terms of guard play.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Avery Anderson. You expect Isaac Likely to be healthy. You know, Rondell Walker, I'm really high on Rondell. And so, I mean, Bryce is a great player, but it's not like he's going to come in and automatically be at the top of the totem pole of guard. Like, he's going to have to prove his worth. And I think he can do that because he's a talented player, you know, former five-star. But it's not like he's going to just be pushing other guys out of the way to make room. I mean, it's going to be a battle just like it was last season for those guards. And I think his role will be a major contributor, but he's going to have to fight for playing time with Rondell, and then don't forget Chris Harris and Donovan Williams is coming back. And so, I mean, those guys are hungry too. So it's not necessarily going to be a cakewalk for Bryce Thompson in terms of being at the top of that depth chart.
Well, and do you think maybe, you know, when Mike Boynton brought him over, part of what he said was like, look, man, you're gonna come over here and you're gonna play. You know, that's the thing. You're gonna come over here and be a contributor, but then at the same time, like you said, he's having to tell Avery and Rondell, like, look, you guys are my guys. You know, we're gonna have you, and you're gonna be the leaders for this team. But obviously, it's gonna be looking a little different when you do have a guy that we know can go off at any time if he gets into a rhythm, like what Bryce Thompson can do.
Yeah, and I just you know, I wrote a story about, you know, Avery Anderson for tomorrow's paper, and I kind of mentioned this, that, like, they were in this situation last year with an even better player in Cade Cunningham, right? So, like, they were able to make it work with, you know, the potential number one pick in the draft. And so if they can make it work with the Cade Cunningham and everybody feeling involved and a part of, they're definitely going to be able to make it work with a Bryce Thompson. And so I don't think that's going to be an issue because everybody thought it was going to be an issue last year. How was Avery Anderson going to, you know, be able to play with Ice and Cunningham and so on? And so you may hear some of these same talks with Bryce there, but they figured it out last year, and I think it's going to be even easier for them to figure it out this year.
Yeah, it's a good comparison, I think, there. What do you think of the announcement of the new bleacher positions at GIA and kind of, you know, getting a chance to maybe enhance the student experience a little bit for basketball?
I think they're taking advantage of the time, right? Like, you've got a basketball team that's you know, fans are really excited to watch. You know, last year they didn't necessarily get to have the experience they wanted. Coming into this year, you know, folks are hyped. You got to take advantage of the opportunity, and they're doing that and trying to, you know, shake things up for fans, give them a better experience. So, I mean, I think it's a smart move by OSU, you know, riding this wave that Boynton has helped put them on.
Well, and then we heard that full capacity is also going to be the plan and everything too. What would you expect maybe as far as crowds for basketball next year? Because it's kind of like you said, it would have been crazy this past season with Cade Cunningham. You probably would have had that GIA packed out multiple times last season just to see him in particular with that team, and then of course what they ended up doing. But what do you expect maybe for the changes we've seen and kind of how this program's being built as far as crowds coming out to support?
Yeah, I think this is going to be you're going to see some major crowds that Gallery Iber Arena maybe hasn't seen in a while, especially with Bryce coming there, another local kid. And so folks are going to be like we talked about the same thing, with this football season. Folks are going to be eager to get back in the stands already just because of the nature of the pandemic year, on top of the fact that you expect this team to continue to be good, and you've got a handful of local athletes playing on that roster, which are going to bring even more fans. And so I expect the crowd to be, the crowd was already electric when it wasn't a full capacity. Like when they played at Texas and Kansas, against Texas and Kansas and everything. So I expect it to be like crazy this upcoming season.
Man, yeah, I'm with you. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see that once they finally get a chance to pack it out and everything, too. Frank, thanks so much for joining us, as always. We appreciate your time. You can find him on Twitter at Frank_Bonner2. That's at Frank_Bonner2. Frank, appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, I'll see y'all.
All right, that's Frank Bonner. Appreciate him, as always. Covers Oklahoma State for the Tulsa World, giving us his insight on the tight end position, the cowboy back position, and then, of course, the upcoming season with Oklahoma State after landing Bryce Thompson. So a lot of big news there for the Cowboys in different fashions. We come back here on the afternoon sports drive. We'll round things out in this first hour. And I've got a little bit I got to pick here with Zach about the cowboy back position. I know that he can tell I'm just dying to get into this with him. So we'll look more at that coming up here on the afternoon sports drive, Triple Play Sports Radio.
Showed you true colors, I don't like what I see. Story keeps changing, I know what that means. Know what that means, I know what that means. How'd you go from being that somebody I believed into being someone doubting me behind the scenes? Can't forgive or sorry that I ain't never received. I mean, least you could have done was gave me an apology. But you're so prideful, yeah, prideful. Taking what you need, then blame it on me, man, that's all.
Welcome back in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, Levi Peckinpah here with you on this Tuesday as we continue from the NCAA Golf Regional at Karsten Creek, presented by UCFCU on Tuesday, June 1st. Welcome to the next evolution of your credit union when University and Community Federal Credit Union becomes Oklahoma Community Credit Union, as well as Advantage Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. From Dale Sorrell and the family to you, Advantage Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling in Stillwater, and now H&M Advantage Heating and Air Conditioning in Sapulpa. You can call them right now at 405-780-6637, and they will make sure to take care of your air conditioning needs, because you're bound to have that coming up here shortly with the warm weather that Oklahoma does bring. Oklahoma State right now continuing to lead the way here at the Stillwater Regional through 10 and 12 right now, and today they've shot -7, so they're feeling pretty good about themselves at that point, Zach. I think we're feeling good about Oklahoma State's positioning right now in this regional and looking to advance.
They are, as we say in the professional world, coasting
to a victory here.
Now the battle, you look at that 5th spot, man, Auburn.
Yeah, you're right.
They've tied for 5th.
That's kind of who we're looking at now for the most exciting.
And I think when I'm not positive, but I think when you come down to it and you're tied at the end of the day, I think you look at what you did that day. So like right now, Auburn is now Sam Houston's dropped down. Now it's Baylor top 10. They're 10 over,
Baylor,
tied for 4th. So that just now changed. So I think you look at it. It's like Auburn's +5 on the day and Auburn's +10. If it were ended today, then I think you would take Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
I think because they're better on the day.
There you go. Yeah, there's your leaderboard here at the Stillwater Regional. So we were talking there with Frank a minute ago about the cowboy backs for Oklahoma State, and Zach, as I've said, towards last year into this year, I just want to see him utilize more. That's what I've said. And, again, I understand the whole Jelani Woods having not the best hands type of thing, but when you rarely give him chances out there on the field, how would you know if he can get it done in a game situation is where I tend to go asking that question. But you have a guy, and then I know, I'm not saying that we all just expect to have Blake Jarwins out there on the field, because you don't. But again, it goes back to what we're talking about, that if you do implement that into the offense, a lot of benefits. Number one, a guy like Spencer Sanders has another option, right? We know the receivers. We know you have depth at that spot again. We know the running backs potentially can catch the ball still out of the backfield. But you add in a guy in the tight end, it's not all he's going to do is block. You bring in Logan Carter, who can go out there, potentially make some plays, especially in the red zone, and come down with the football. Then all of a sudden you've got a little bit of a different wrinkle there. And do you agree with me when I say that tight ends can be utilized like running backs out of the backfield in the sense that they can be a security blanket for a quarterback to get the ball to?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's one of the main problems with Oklahoma State and the perception of the Cowboy back, because it's not often that Oklahoma State goes out and recruits a genuine receiving tight end. There were a lot of people, and I'm trying to remember his name. There was a 4-star receiver out of Collinsville a few years back that just did not pan out. He was 4 stars, but he wasn't a receiver. I watched Collinsville play 2 or 3 times, and he maybe caught 15 balls all season long. He was primarily used as a blocker, and that's what you see. Like, Jelani Woods was a quarterback out of high school. Jelani Woods wasn't a tight end. They put 60 pounds on him and expected him to be able to go out there and receive passes. Dude couldn't catch. And that's the problem that Oklahoma State fans had, because the rare occasions that they got to see Jelani Woods utilized was like 1 out of every 50, and the one was a rare touchdown catch in a game. But when you go to practice, couldn't do anything. He wasn't, he was a blocker and he couldn't catch passes. So I get the frustration. Like, well, what the hell? When we actually go to him, he catches touchdowns. Okay, well, that's 1 out of every 50. All right, that's very rare that happens. That's why when he caught that touchdown in 2018 against Texas, he was ecstatic. His arms were raised. That's like the first time he's caught a ball in like 4 weeks. All right, so I think you look at a guy like Austin Girard, and now I will secede to Tom here. We are going to need to see him play at this level. But he was a receiver out of high school, had over 1,000 yards his senior year in high school, was a first-team all-conference at American River Community College out there in Sacramento. So, I mean, he is a receiving tight end, something that Oklahoma State hasn't had in a while. And I think that's going to be a great compliment to a guy like Logan Carter, because Logan Carter, he can also catch the ball. But Logan Carter is mainly a blocking back, and that's what you're going to see. So when you get a guy like Austin Girard, who's 6'3", 6'4", 250, you can have him in the backfield like Oklahoma State likes to run out of that pistol. You can shift him to the end of the line. He can catch passes. So I think you will see a much more pronounced use of the Cowboy back this upcoming season, because they'll have a receiving tight end.
Yeah, I really hope so. Because again, you look at it on third downs, and you have that ability to convert there too.
Maybe you won't be seeing 3rd and 8 draws up the middle.
Please no. Levi, you don't feel that way? Are we not going to see that?
No. I like the optimism, but no. I mean, we're completely. It seems like we're going to more of a different system now. I mean, the one reason Jelani Woods never saw a lot of looks was because we're heavy power run now. That's how everything was whenever it was Justice Hill, Chuba Hubbard. It's power run. That's what we go through. Whenever we have a plethora of running backs, the Cowboy back, it basically becomes just a blocker. That's what they are at this point. And yes, you could say you have a guy that you think could excel at certain points with catching, but we're not to the system where we excel and we use the tight ends to that type of mold anymore. It's just not what we are anymore. If we were still in the back ways where it was constant flinging it down the field, and you definitely saw like someone look like a Blake Jarwin type of guy, and could be that consistently, and then I would give you the benefit of the doubt. But I haven't seen that for 5 years. That is just not what Oklahoma State is at the moment. I thought Jelani Woods was a really good guy. He had, like, in my old time that I've been here and watched him, he had a couple misses here or there, but altogether he only had 31 receptions on his career. He did not get a lot of looks. Yes, he had a couple drops here or there, but the majority of them, he caught the majority of it. It's just the system we are in does not go heavy on what we call a tight end. It's just not that anymore.
you talk about with the running game too, and that's where I think if you do want to see more of the tight end, you do worry a little bit because, like you said, you have that depth at that running position, and you have to understand that Oklahoma State's going to put a big emphasis on that this year. They really are. There's no Chuba Hubbard, but it doesn't matter. If you've got 3 guys right now that you're really confident in handling the ball, and maybe 4 by the time it's all said and done on the ground. If that's going to happen, well, that means you're going to be seeing a lot of Logan Carter going out and trying to bust guys off the edge, and that's fine at times. I get it, but I think I'm speaking for a lot of people when I say, man, let's peel him off a little bit. Let's see what he can do in the middle of the field every now and again. Let's have him hedge and come off and catch the ball and see what he does after the run. He seems like a guy that could get your yards after the catch and after contact, and it's just something that I want to see more of. I know that you look at some of the better offenses that are run at times in college football. I think we're kind of trending that way too. You can do so much with tight ends, but a lot of the best passing offenses have a guy at that spot that they can go to.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, when you look around the nation, whenever it turns to the NFL or whether you look to the NCAA, you have to have a reliable tight end to be able to take that next step. And that's just unfortunately not what Oklahoma State's system is right now, of being able to have that tight end that is almost game-changing to a point. We've gone away from that in heavy of a heavy run game and a heavy emphasis on the wide receivers. I mean, we brag about having so many wide receivers and so many running backs. Well, here's the thing. Someone's got to take a hit because of that, and it's the tight end spot. Whenever you got all these guys that excel at so many times, because I remember hearing after the spring game that we were like, oh, we could go like 4 or 5 deep at running back, and the same thing with wide receiver. Well, here's the thing. Those guys are going to take all the targets. If you feel more comfortable with those guys compared to your Cowboy backs, the Cowboy backs are going to take a hit, and we've seen that over the past 5 years. We go heavier and heavier on the running backs and heavier on the wide receivers, and the Cowboy backs get let off into the woods. And that's just how the system is right now.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty interesting position specifically with Oklahoma State because you just never know with the dynamics they have at that spot. When we come back here on the Afternoon Sports Drive, hour number 2, we'll get into some buy or sell. It's coming up next, Triple Play Sports Radio.
And I don't know how we make it out when we make that on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta let it go. Laying on the ground, wondering why it's so cold. How we make it out when we make out on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta let it go. Laying on the ground, wondering why it's so cold. Why you so icy cold, my tears.
Welcome back in,
can't
hour number 2,
You know
Afternoon
it's
Sports
low.
Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, and Levi Peckinpah on this Tuesday afternoon as we continue live from the NCAA Golf Regional at Karsten Creek. Brought to you by University and Community Federal Credit Union. You can find them at 311 East McElroy. They have exciting news, new brand, new name, but the same great credit union. Starting on June 1st, UCFCU will become Oklahoma Community Credit Union and by Advantage Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Call them right now at 405-780-6637, and they will have everything you need to keep your AC up to date coming up here with the warm weather in Oklahoma. Start off in the second hour, we're going to get into some buy or sell.
Are you buying
I'd buy that for $1.
or are you selling?
You'll pick up the phone and you'll sell, sell, sell.
This is Buy or Sell on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Make money, money, make money.
Buy or sell, Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, and Levi Peckinpah. All right, Zach, what you got for me today?
It's an honor to go first.
Hey, I know every time for you it is. Every time.
So we saw this one. This one's kind of for Levi too. He's a big White Sox fan. We saw a 3-0 homer last night against Minnesota. Was it like a 46-mile-an-hour meatball down the middle of the plate? And he's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna throw a strike here."
Yeah.
No, I don't care. I don't care if you're like one situation you don't swing at that is like if the bases are loaded, the bottom of the ninth, and there's a chance you could get walked in the winning run. Maybe you don't swing at that. Maybe you see if he throws another ball. But if you lob up a 47-mile-an-hour ball down the middle of the plate, I'm a swing. I don't care if I'm up 15 or not. So buy or sell. And there's the reaction from some of the older folks have been a little okay. I don't agree with that. Okay, but if your team did it, It'd be okay. So buy or sell, maybe we see 3-0 homers like that start to become a little bit more accepted.
I like how when you started this, you said, because Levi's also a big White Sox fan, as he chose which team to root for before the season started.
But he's finding a way to stream these games.
He is. He's all in.
He's getting them in.
I know he is.
Yeah.
He's consistent with it. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
And I told him he picked a good team. They were, as of coming into this week, I know with the best record in all of baseball. They may have to check that now, but they have a lot of weapons on this team. They're really fun to watch. Obviously, I've been into it because I love Tony La Russa, and I want to see what he does. And he's made the news a couple of times too. But yeah, I'll buy. I mean, I think this is certainly one of those things that we go back to the whole unwritten rules thing. You got a lot of the younger guys saying that the unwritten rules are stupid. They need to be gone. And while I can agree with some of that, as you know, there's a couple that I'm like, all right, that's fine. We can try to do away with some of these. But there's some things in the game of baseball that if you continue to do, I would still expect some retaliation. Now, this is one of those things where it's like, I've never agreed. It goes back to any time there's a blowout and it continues to get worse, that we're supposed to just take pity on the team that's getting blown out. I never understood that. And don't try to tell me it's a sportsmanship thing, because it's pro baseball. Yeah, I didn't know there was supposed to be a ton of sportsmanship just coming into pro sports. This is a business, and it's something that stats matter. So when I saw this and I saw the reaction, heck though, the White Sox color guy was like, I don't like that, and I was like, man. Get your rocker and go back to the nursing home, dude. This is a new sport, man. This is a new era of baseball with young guys, and this is one of those things that, look, if you're going to, and I believe it was a position player, right, throwing, and he tosses up 47 miles an hour. First of all, I'm amazed that the dude hit the baseball. That's harder than hitting the 99 mile an hour fastball, having to sit back and wait on a 47 mile an hour pitch, which he did, and then just yacked it. And I'm thinking to myself, he's supposed to let that go? And the color guy's excuse was, well, come on, he was going to get the next pitch in the same location. Why can't he just take a strike? Why would he take a strike? You're sitting 3-0 in a perfect hitter's count, and I understand, and I remember back when I grew up in high school, we always had the rule, unless you were just a really, really good hitter, and still even then, I was with a coach that happened to think, you know what, 3-0 we're taking. It's an automatic take. I don't care what it is.
That was my coach.
Yeah, you better watch a strike right down the middle. I always thought that was the dumbest thing ever. I was like, Coach, I'm going to get my best pitch of the at-bat right here. Why am I having to watch this? I'm going to swing at this thing. So you throw that in there too, and I understand the whole, look, they're up by 1 billion runs, so why are they having to add on? If you're going to put it right there, what do you expect a guy to take a yard? This isn't 20 years ago. That's another home run that guy can add to the stats and everything. That helps as the year continues on, no doubt. It makes things look better for him. So I'm past this whole, we got to sit there and take a strike because we got to be respectful.
It's that argument we got into last week. You don't want to get shown up? Do your job right.
Absolutely. That's how it always goes.
Don't get into that situation.
Yeah, I've been on the other side of plenty of those back when we played sports, right?
Not fun.
Getting killed, it's not fun.
Yeah.
And the other team continues to dominate. It's like, well, we probably should have played better, first of all, to not be in this position. If you allow 15-plus runs in a Major League Baseball game,
expect a homer.
Something has gone horribly wrong for you to get to that point, and it's probably going to continue to get worse if it's already there. So, yeah, when I saw that, I was like, here we go. It was definitely an okay boomer situation for me. I know that there are those out there like, oh, there's got to be respect. That's not what it's about. This is a younger style of baseball that we're witnessing. It's bringing more attention to the game with guys that are more talented than we've ever seen at such a young age.
I guarantee you that if Fernando Tatis Jr. went up there and yacked a 3-0 homer, it would be the best thing that's happened all year long.
It would. It would be like, man, this guy's he's so good for the game. We love everything that he does. He's so electric. He didn't care. He breaks the norms, and we'd have more of that brave talk and all this. Nah. We're past that. That's just how the game is, so I took no exception to that. Yeah, I'm buying that'll happen more. If you're going to be up 100 runs and you got a 3-0 piece of cheese coming down the middle, yeah, it's going to get yacked.
It's the old-fashioned saying, go cry me a river. At that point, if you're up by this much and they are just throwing lazy crap across the middle, you swing it. You send the message of, it doesn't matter if we're up this much. If you are throwing stuff across the plate that looks like you just would rather go home, I'm going to send you home. And I respect it for Yermin Mercedes to send it yard, one of my favorite guys on the White Sox. I respect him for sending it yard. give me a bye. If you ain't going to come prepared, if you're going to get whooped and then you're going to start throwing stuff across the middle that just says, I don't want to be here, expect to get sent yard. Big bye.
And you don't have a position player that can throw faster than 47 miles an hour.
I mean,
I haven't thrown a baseball in 12 years, and I'm pretty sure I could still throw faster.
Yeah,
than
when
47.
I saw that go in there, I was like, dude was really just tossing it up there. Like, it was the fact that it made it into the zone even was pretty incredible at that speed.
I'm buying.
That's just a
yeah,
given,
That's so
man.
stupid.
Yeah.
Literally, you throw it
Well,
that
and
soft,
especially
man.
if you go 4 or 5 years, you start to filter out, then the game is like. There are some things,
there's
like,
things.
Like I want to see the game change, but I don't want to see a runner on second, in extra innings. I don't want to see a 7-inning doubleheader game. I'm actually, you know what? I'm not as opposed to that. Maybe we don't need to spend 9 hours at a ballpark.
Yeah, you can just get tickets for the first game. It's fine. Don't worry about the second one.
But yeah, that's a little old for me.
My biggest thing still that I cannot stand to this day, and I always say it, is bunting to break up a no-hitter. That right there drives me absolutely insane.
Little Bush.
I feel like that's
league.
Bush. You're taking the easy way out. You're trying to do the cheap thing and try
It's
to.
a hit.
Yeah, it's a hit. We got to give the. I feel like
advancing the runners,
we should just
Patrick.
outlaw bunting. And it's been.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of bunting.
It's the
Biggest
worst.
effects.
It's the worst thing in baseball, and that's what I think is really cheap. But if you do it, fine. But you should expect some retaliation. And even for this, if they wanted to come back and in the next inning and plunk a guy, I'm not going to complain about it. Like I can understand why you still may be upset about it, but at the same time, dude, you guys got yourself in that position. I'm with you, Levi. It's kind of a cry me a river thing.
You don't throw 47-mile-an-hour ball to your DH.
That number is unbelievable.
Your Mercedes is basically the DH for the Chicago White Sox, and you just lob it up. Expect it to go yard. You're an idiot if you don't think that happens, man. Goodness. If you don't come prepared to play, get ready to get smacked. That's what happens, man. And it's not
plain and simple.
It's not Chicago's fault that Minnesota's doing bad, man.
Yeah, not Chicago's fault that Minnesota is garbage again. All right, so we saw that Cade Cabanis was named the Big 12 Player of the Week for baseball, and we know he was a huge part of those 3 wins OSU grabbed last week. He had 538 through that span, a couple of home runs, a double, 7 RBIs. It's been real easy to talk about Christian Encarnacion-Strand as being the guy, but Cade Cabanis has also done a great job, especially at the plate. And this was, a series with Baylor that one of the few that actually figured CES out a little bit. I think he had one hit through this whole series, and that's pretty hard to do when they pitched him about as well as you'll see. So Cade Cabanis took advantage throughout this past week and had a really great stretch of games there. So buy or sell that through this 3-game series with New Orleans, when we finish things up here, he comes out of it hitting over 500.
Yeah, I would buy that. I think you're probably going to see a few people hitting close to, if not over 500. This is your typical end of the season series. We're not bringing in Louisville. We're not bringing in a Vanderbilt. We're bringing in a team that's just over 500 on the season. Gets us prepared for the Big 12 tournament. So I would probably buy it. I think Cade Cabanis has had a hell of a resurgence towards the end of this season. So yeah, I would buy that, and I would probably take a few others to get pretty close.
Yeah, you're gonna throw a few others in that list too, huh?
CES, maybe Carson McCusker.
Well, CES has to bounce back. He has no choice.
I'm picking a few to go with that. Yeah, so.
Yeah, no, I'm with you because I think Cade has really been about as consistent, especially recently too, as you could ask for. He's been a guy that even if the offense is struggling at times, he's going to come through for you. That's important to have on this team with experience, and I think this is going to be a series where you're going to see a lot of runs scored for Oklahoma State. And we talk a lot about their offense. This year there's been times where it has been a little puzzling. It's like even against good pitching, you would expect that lineup to do damage at some point. And they've run into times where that hasn't been the case, and that's why they haven't had a fantastic season by any means in terms of the Big 12, and they find themselves not being able to host a regional. And then, believe it or not, the offense has played a part in that, and it's one of those parts of the team we thought would definitely lead them. Now they've been dealing with injuries. We know all that too. It's easy to make the excuse, but I do believe this is going to be a fun series to kind of get your feel back. If you've lost the swing a little bit, you kind of get back into it before the postseason rolls around. And Cade's going to lead that. He hit over 538 there is what I gave between Baylor and the Oklahoma game. Like, the dude just raked, and he's going to continue to do that because, I tell you what, the New Orleans pitching isn't going to be better than what you just saw. So
No,
he's going to
not.
come in and I think have a really good 3-game series.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be a Pine Bluff type series, but
Good
it's-
night. I mean, for
You're not going to be faced. It'll be worse than what you saw against Kansas and OU, and so yeah.
still to this day, I feel bad for Pine Bluff. That was
I love run rules. Sign me up. We're talking just over 2 hours, and you know what? Last night, you know what? That 3-0 home run shouldn't have happened because implement run rules across the board.
my ideal game. I show up and it's so out of hand that it was only 2
hour
hours.
45.
Yeah, there you
Dude,
go.
that's why college softball is super legit, man. You're not going to see many games over 2 hours. It's fantastic. So we get the announcement yesterday that Gallagher is going full capacity.
Yes.
You know, we get the student section switch up. I love it. That was actually something that was around for a really long time until the Travis Ford era, trying to recoup some of that disaster money that they owed him. So I'm okay with it. I'm actually side note. I'm actually surprised the reception to the student section getting moved has actually been pretty well received. And you had the athletic department a few weeks ago say that spring sports they're going back to full capacity, and the perception is that we're expecting full capacity for football. So buy or sell here pretty quick, because we're seeing it across the country. Buy or sell, we see a quote unquote official announcement of full capacity for football.
Oh yeah, big time. It's coming. It's down the pipeline. No, I think it was Florida.
Yeah,
recently.
there's been a few.
And they announced that they are selling out every single seat. You know, that's like 80,000 people that they're going to end up selling, and it will sell out immediately. And that's going to be the same for Oklahoma State when that does happen. You know, you're going to be able to put together a big old package of classic video of when the fans were there packing it out, some of the rowdiest times. Boone Pickens and all that too, and they're going to make it a big thing, and it needs to be, because this is the time. You know, I mean, you've seen it done with other teams, like you've said, across the country, announcing GIA already, which is great to hear. You know, O'Brait's already in that. So yeah, it's absolutely coming. It's going to be one of those big we're back type things, and it's not just a we're back. It's a we're back, and we never want to go back to what that was, because while we did have fans, and that was great, I was proud of OSU for doing that through all of that, and it was good to see. At the same time, it's just not the same, as you well know. So to be able to pack it out is a huge advantage, I think, in football as much as anything. I said that last year, and I'm really excited to see that finally come back. And when it does get announced, it's gonna be fun. You know, you're gonna put together a really solid multimedia package on that, and get everybody excited to go. Season tickets are flying out. You know, it's gonna be back to normal. And I am well prepared and ready for that, because it's been a long time. It feels like it's been a long time coming to finally hear and have that back.
Yeah, see, that's the thing, is it'll be a way to sell a lot of tickets. You know, we talked about it last week whenever they announced full capacity, or I guess it'd be a few weeks ago when they announced full capacity. The last full capacity sellout that Oklahoma State has was that Texas game back in 2018. That's a long time. I think you're going to have several official sellouts coming up this upcoming season, because it's like we talked about. Fans, you know, people are like, you know what, you've kept me home, you kept me out of this, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. I can do it now. I don't have to do this anymore. I don't have to do that anymore. I can go. Now I think you'll see an uptick in ticket prices. I think you'll see prices a little bit steeper than what you're used to. Maybe a championship style season ticket price. But I don't think that'll matter. I think you'll see a lot of sellouts, and I think you'll see here coming up. I'm not sure when, but I would have to think sometime within the next month you'll see an official announcement, because you can. I think if they do that, if they make this a huge deal, and they're not just like, oh, we've announced full capacity, you know, and put out a statement and that's it. If you do something big, you make it an event, I think you'll see those season tickets sell out pretty fast. And I think you'll start to see, hey, by the way, we had tickets for this game, but we don't now. Sorry.
Yeah.
We're sold out.
So we saw today on Twitter, there were a couple of different posts that the Pittsburgh Steelers are already enthralled and thrilled with their new running back, Najee Harris, who dominated at Alabama. And when he went in that first round, I will admit it, I was a little surprised still. I thought that that the Pittsburgh Steelers might go after offensive line, but they went ahead and grabbed Najee Harris, and it's probably going to turn out to be a good move just based on his talent alone and what they need at that position, because they desperately need a really good running back once again. Now that James Conner's out of there, they haven't really had a good one since his first full season, and then, of course, Le'Veon Bell before that. So they need a new running back, and they got it. We saw footage of him making a couple of really nice catches out of the backfield. That was the other thing that he did so well in Alabama, is he caught the ball like crazy, and had a great career doing that. So with all that being said, we saw the rookies that got drafted this season already, and in the draft, and the quarterbacks for sure headlining. Buy or sell. I know it's crazy because it's a running back.
Yeah.
Buy or sell, Najee Harris wins Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I think he's got a good chance. When it first came down, that Pittsburgh was taking a running back, I was like everyone else. I was a little confused because they need offensive linemen. You need that situation to protect Ben Roethlisberger. Now, if you look at the running game this past season, wasn't great. It
was terrible. It was not good.
Was not a great situation. So, with that being said, I am more than okay with them taking Najee Harris. I think you look at the rest of the rookies.
And when you say rookie, you mainly have to think
your first year players,
potentially quarterbacks. There's a couple wide receivers, Jalen Waddle, Jamar Chase, guys like that.
Maybe, and I could see Trevor Lawrence. But I don't know if Jacksonville's going to have as good a season like, say, Los Angeles did last year with the Chargers. I don't think we're going to see a Justin Herbert type quarterback situation this upcoming season. If we're looking at the receivers that went, I don't know if they're in as good as situations to where they're going to be able to haul in, all rookie of the year type situation stats. So I would probably buy Najee Harris, because you look at Pittsburgh. Ben Roethlisberger's not that good of a quarterback anymore. His arms dropped off a lot. So I think you're going to see a lot of run situations. I think you're going to see a lot of, around the end dump-off situations with Harris. And with how good he was the past couple of seasons, I would probably buy it. I don't know if you're going to see that Alabama running back, drop off for a few seasons and see him come back strong in 2 or 3 years. I think he could be pretty hot out of the gate. So I would probably buy that.
Big sell. Big sell. For one thing, Rookie of the Year, MVP, it's pretty much QB awards at this point. If you really, really, really wanted to give this award to, at least this past year, you could have gave it to Justin Jefferson and made the most sense, since he broke records. He broke a lot of wide receiver records and broke legend records, like everything Randy Moss had. And they gave it to Justin Herbert for breaking Baker's, I think it was passing touchdown record by like a couple touchdowns. Yeah. I would rather give it to the wide receiver who broke historic records, but like in records set by Hall of Famers. But if you can't get a guy who broke all those historic records set by Hall of Famers, you can't give him the Rookie of the Year over a guy for another team. Yes, Justin Herbert was great, but you don't know if he's going to have a great year too. And yes, he broke the QB touchdown record, but the thing is, with the number that's set there, that's a record that can be easily broken over and over and over again by numerous quarterbacks coming up. I don't know when that wide receiver record's ever going to get touched again for rookies. That's one that's never going to get touched again. So unless Najee Harris breaks out for like 2,000 total yards, no, not a chance. It's going to be QB. Don't know which one. It's going to be one of them. But I would love for it to be Najee Harris. It's not going to be Najee Harris. Unless he literally goes full Derrick Henry and has about 2,000 total yards, sell.
Yeah, and I'm with you, Levi. I think that this award has become just like the MVP. It's leaning towards quarterbacks, and I understand because obviously quarterback is the most important position, heck, in sports for me, not just football. But at the same time, there always has been that argument. Well, it's kind of a it takes two to tango situation. You need wide receivers too, and then when they go out there and have seasons like you saw with Justin Jefferson. I understood it. I remember we had that argument when Justin Jefferson was not the winner and Justin Herbert was. I understood it. Not 100%, necessarily I would say agreeing with it, but I did understand it, why they gave him the nod. And I'm with you. It's Najee Harris. I think what you're about to see with him is a guy that is going to have success on the ground. But I'm telling you, you're looking at the potentially the next Le'Veon Bell type of guy with this system. And I say that because it's like you said, Zach, you have an aging Ben Roethlisberger. Not only does that mean they're going to, try to set up a lot of plays with the run, that means he's going to be dumping the ball off a lot. I think he has the receivers to make big plays, and you keep Juju around. That certainly helps. Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, James Washington, guys like that. But you look at the running back, and Najee Harris is a guy that dominated in that spot where he caught 80 passes and for 781 yards and 11 touchdowns in 2 seasons there with Alabama, those last 2 seasons. And he does have the kind of size that you see with a guy like Derrick Henry. So he's special. He really is, and I think he's going to translate well with this system, and he's going to get a ton of touches. I saw today, I forget who it was one of the defensive players for Pittsburgh, had said, it's really great to have a guy like Najee Harris who can carry the ball 30 to 40 times in a game, and who's going to.
That's wild.
I was like, wait,
to begin with, that's crazy.
Wait a minute, what? 30 to 40 times in a game? I don't think there's any running back that's ever going to carry it 30 to 40 times and never has done that consistently. So I thought that was a little much there to say. But I do love what Najee Harris brings here. But I'm going to sell. He's not going to win this. Even if it's you look at Trevor Lawrence. You look at Zach Wilson, which would obviously have to have a huge year with a terrible team. And you look at maybe, I guess Justin Fields would have to be in that conversation too because he's going to end up being the starter for Chicago. So you look at those guys, and even if they have somewhat of a successful season, they'll compare that to Najee Harris and be like, quarterback. And they'll just lean that way. And that's just how it is. And they would actually do the same with receivers over running backs too. You know how I am, Levi. I think the running backs are widely disrespected at the next level. I really, really do. You see what Derrick Henry did last year, and he was barely mentioned in the MVP conversation down the line. He was dominating. It was unbelievable. And he was like an afterthought because of the quarterbacks and when wide receivers at times. And it's just, I hate to see that because they do play such an important part for these teams. But, I'm looking more towards the quarterbacks, obviously, but Jalen Waddle, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, those guys that have a chance to be big rookies at that position. Kyle Pitts may be in the mix before it's all said and done because of how good of a pass catcher he is and what I expect from him, even with the Atlanta Falcons. So there's a lot I think that potentially could be ahead of him. But I will say this, Najee Harris is going to be one of the most, if not the most, fun rookie running back to watch and going to get that best opportunity because you think about this too, guys. How many times do running backs come in anymore and are automatically your starter? That doesn't happen very often anymore, and that's the case with Najee Harris. He comes into a Steelers team, and he's going to get a lot of carries, not 30 to 40 a game, but he will get a lot. He will get a lot of carries, no doubt. And I think we're gonna. If you don't know his name yet, you're gonna know his name 1 or 2 weeks into the season. Would you agree with that, Levi? That this is going to be, you look at the receivers that Pittsburgh has, and certainly there's a lot of potential for big time plays down the field. But with what Big Ben brings with his arm right now, is it possible you see a huge outbreak in terms of catching the ball with Najee?
I think so, because with the way that Big Ben, I assume he's going to operate, because this happens with a lot of QBs. Whenever they get older and their arm goes down, you focus more and more on the short routes. You focus more and more on the short little things that could make things really great for you. I mean, with Drew Brees, everybody calls Michael Thomas slant boy, but that's because he's got one of the best slant routes of the game. And since it's such a short route and he's so proficient with it, Drew Brees is just it was automatic with it. So I assume you're going to have something sort of similar to that, where honestly, a guy like Najee Harris, he's a do-it-all type of running back, and he's going to excel in that system. I love him half to death. I think he's the best running back in this class by far. But with the way the system's set up, unless he goes for 2,000 yards, and I don't even know if that's going to get it for him.
Yeah, even then, yeah.
And I don't know for a wide receiver, unless you literally start getting 1,800 yards, I just don't know what you can do. I just don't know. It's strictly a QB award at this point, and I feel sorry for these guys because it's a shame that even though Justin Herbert had a great year last year, it should have been Justin Jefferson. If Najee Harris goes off for an incredible year, they'll most likely give it to like Trevor Lawrence, or they'll give it to if Trey Lance goes off. It's not anybody else on offense award. It's a QB award at this point, and I hate it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you too. It does bum me out because you do have guys with phenomenal seasons that aren't going to get looks like they should. We come back here, coming up on the afternoon sports drive. Over the weekend, we had one Cincinnati Reds player who had a fantastic moment by basically calling out Commissioner Rob Manfred in Major League Baseball. But again, brings up one of my favorite points to talk about in all of sports. We'll share that with you coming up next on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Whoa. Staring as I go, I gave until my soul hurt, never told them so. They're watching as I fall, somewhere down below. Maybe I'll just fall.
Welcome back in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, and Levi Peckinpah here with you Tuesday edition. And we are live at the NCAA Golf Regional at Karsten Creek, where Oklahoma State has continued to, as Zach said earlier, coast through this final round today. They are through holes 12 through 15, so coming up here on these last few holes to end out the day, and they have shot 8 under on the day. And that right there should tell you where you are if you're an Oklahoma State fan feeling about this squad, because next up, Illinois has shot +4 on the day, and they are coming into the day, they were 11 under, and then you had Oklahoma State at 25 under. So I'm looking at what they've been doing so far, and it has really not been, safe to say, a ton of competition. You have Baylor and Sam Houston right now fighting for that 5th spot to have a chance to get in, because the top 5 teams will advance, and Oklahoma State is dominated here in Stillwater. Coverage today brought to you by UCFCU at 311 East McElroy, with exciting news because it's the new brand and the new name, but a same great a new brand and new name, same great credit union, I should say, there is going to become Oklahoma Community Credit Union, and Advantage Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling as well. Call them at 405-780-6637. There's no diagnostic fees with Advantage for the service that they provide with recommended repairs. Advantage Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Appreciate them as well. All right, so over the weekend, you know, it's always really fun for me to see players in leagues, in pro leagues, not be afraid to tell the commissioners of said leagues kind of where they can put it, if you know what I'm saying. Now, in the NFL, there's always been that back and forth because you've got guys really going after Roger Goodell for a lot of his boneheaded decisions and moves. Well, after the Astros nonsense went down and the cheating scandal and all that, it seemed pretty clear to me that Rob Manfred took the title of worst commissioner potentially ever in sports, especially right now in Major League Baseball, because he didn't do anything to punish them. And a fantastic moment happened over the weekend. Red Star Nick Castellanos, he's been really just hitting the ball like crazy all season long. He was mad still at Rob Manfred, rightfully so, because one of the first games of the year when they were playing the Cardinals, we saw that play where you had Cardinals pitcher Jake Woodford come in, and he tried to make a play at home and tag out, I think it was on a wild pitch, tag out Castellanos. He misses all this. Castellanos steps on the home plate and then does the whole flex over Woodford, who's laying on the ground. And that incited a bit of a benches clearing brawl. You had both teams come out, Cardinals, and then Yachty was in the face of Castellanos, and it was a great little rivalry. And now Nick Castellanos will be booed by Cardinals fans for as long as he shall live in Major League Baseball and beyond, if his name ever is brought up. So it's great. But he was punished. He was given a couple of games suspension there, and I thought that was ridiculous, as a lot of people did. And that was with me, a Cardinals fan. I was like, why would you suspend Nick Castellanos for doing that? Like, let him settle it out there. That doesn't warrant a suspension. But the best part about this weekend was Nick Castellanos fist bumps a Reds fan. Yeah, just normal fan, just fist bumps him. Everyone's like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool, cool little moment. Well, then he proceeds to hit a home run. After the game, they interview him with the same fan that is next to him, and instead of answering questions, Nick Castellanos grabs the headset and hands it to the fan and says, I'm going to let you answer these questions. And the guy that's doing the broadcast for the Reds, he first of all, tells the fan, okay, reminder to you that we are live, so please do not say anything that cannot be said over the airwaves. And he goes, what did you say to Nick Castellanos before he hit that home run? You guys fist bumped. He goes, well, I told Nick to pretend that baseball was Rob Manfred's face, and then he proceeded to go yard and hit a home run.
It's still such a great one of the best moments of this season so far.
And Nick Castellanos is just shaking his head. He's got his arms crossed. He's looking directly in the camera. He's like, yep. He doesn't say a word. He just lets the fan do everything, and the guy goes, the broadcaster goes, well, okay, we'll cut it off there. And I don't think he was expecting that. But again, I know this was personal. I really, really do. But he brings up one of my favorite points to make in sports, because Rob Manfred, regardless of his past, he could have made himself one of the most respected and legendary commissioners of all time had he appropriately punished the Houston Astros.
Absolutely.
He could make mistake after mistake after mistake after that decision. But if he had taken the World Series ring away, had actually punished the players for what they did, he would still be thought of as one of the best to do it because he had the stones to make that happen. Instead, he did the complete opposite. Everybody basically walks out of that with no punishment. No, the ring is still intact and all of this. The only punishment, if you want to call it that, they get is fans booing them and throwing fake trash cans out on the field, which is always funny. Because it was literally, like we talked about, laid up for him to go up there and dunk it. It was one of the easiest decisions you could ever make as a commissioner, and he did the exact opposite. So now no one respects him, no one cares about what he has to say, and especially players. You don't suspend the players, you leave all that stuff, and it's just a mess. Adds on to it this year, he takes the All-Star game away from the Atlanta Braves. As if it couldn't get any worse. He makes that decision based off a lot of ill-informed information that he read or was given or told or whatever. Now it's being placed in Denver, and you strip that away from what looks like it's going to be a normal summer in Atlanta, and jobs are supposed to be coming back and all this, and you don't give them an opportunity to do that. Another stupid decision. But it always makes me think, man, he had that opportunity. Had he done this, he had done the Astros the right way, and then he continued and he said, I'm gonna take the All-Star game out of Atlanta. Yeah, that would have been bad, but I think there still would have been people that would have been like, give him a little bit of leeway because he did correctly punish the Astros. I really do think that. And he had the easiest opportunity to do so, and he botched it. And it makes me think about that every single time Rob Manfred is brought up. I'm like, man, he could have been the guy that we all would have been like giving a ton of respect. Instead, just completely blew it.
Yeah, and that's what's crazy, because you look at leadership across any league, and there aren't many situations that they're presented with that define a career, right?
Exactly.
You look at Mark Emmert at the NCAA, and there have been several opportunities for, and like at this point, I don't know if there was just one instance for Emmert. It's been multiple instances. It's like, my God. This guy just keeps stepping on himself. He can't get it right. The NCAA is an absolute joke. You look at Rob Manfred, and there's one defining moment that people will forever think. Well, Rob Manfred, was he? Who was he? Oh, that was the guy that botched the Houston Astros. Was he? What was he? Was he a commissioner? I don't know. I just know that he bungled that situation. And then you get situations like taking the All-Star game away from Atlanta, and it's just like
this piles on.
Never ceases to. Like, I think even if he'd have got the situation right in Atlanta, he'd have just left it alone. Still wouldn't have mattered. I'm not sure there's enough that he could do throughout the however many years of being a commissioner he has left that would ever fix his situation.
I would have respected him more had he not done what he did with moving the All-Star game.
Yeah.
But because of his lack of punishment with the Astros, of course, when I heard the first reports that there were complaints about that was my first thought, well, of course he's going to move it.
Yeah.
He's Rob Manfred. He screwed up one of the easiest decisions of all time. Of course this isn't going to go the right way. You could look at anything you would think should happen. The same with Nick Castellanos.
Sure.
You look at a situation much smaller, and you say, all right, he flexed over a guy. There wasn't even a full-on brawl. Both teams came out. They kind of bumped into each other, called each other a few names, and walked out. This was a Cardinals-Reds rivalry that was heated anyways.
Yeah.
These guys always fight. No, that doesn't warrant a suspension. What happens? He gets a suspension.
Buy or sell. All right, you know what? I'm going to buy or sell. Over or under my number's 5.
Okay.
The amount of times between now and the end of the season that Castellanos gets suspended again.
Oh yeah, big time. I thought
Taking the over on that.
I'm expecting at some point here to come back with some punishment.
In the next week.
He'll either be fined or suspended for having the fan answer the question. Right?
Yeah.
He didn't say one word. However, it's actually kind of clever if you think about it, because Nick Castellanos managed to drag Rob Manfred without saying a word. Like, he found the loophole.
Yeah.
He's like, I know what we can do. I will actually just get a fan to.
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Yeah, it's like a middleman. I'm going to get
Absolutely.
a fan to say what I want to say.
Guarantee you that Cincinnati and is it whoever the Bally Sports is that covers Cincinnati is gonna come up with their team personnel only. All right, so there's not going to be if they don't get paid by the Reds organization, you can't have them interviewed anymore. I'm sorry.
I bet Castellanos was like, guys, like where did it say that before? Is there any rule that a fan can't answer a question?
There is now, Nick. All right,
it's called the Castellanos rule, dude. Like we had to make that to where it can't happen again.
Deep fly ball.
Oh, yeah, speaking of Nick Castellanos, one of the most cringy things of all time. Yeah, that bring up the Tom Brenneman mess.
Yikes.
Oh, that was bad. All right, real quick, Levi, if you had to choose between Roger Goodell or Rob Manfred, who are you taking right now? And just based off of you want to be the commissioner. Let's say you have a guy that's in charge of all sports.
Can I answer before Levi does?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, go ahead, because I think we got to get an idea.
I would have to take if you're just taking those two guys to lead
of all sport. They have to lead all sports.
If it's those two guys, I'm taking Roger Goodell, because even though Roger Goodell, their fans hate him, he gets booed. How much has he continued to grow the sport of football?
Yeah, that's fair.
Like it's fair. Like, yeah, people don't like him, but there hasn't been a down year. Like, you look at what they did last year with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't miss a game. You know, you look at how much money he continues to bring into that sport, even after all the kneeling incidents and Colin Kaepernick and everything like that. Football hasn't seen a dip. It continues to grow. Rob Manfred, if anything, baseball's declined a little bit since he's taken over, and I love baseball. I think there's nothing more beautiful than going to a Major League Baseball game. Like, it's just so beautiful.
Yeah, it's great.
Love it. But you look at someone to lead sports and to make it flourish, Roger Goodell.
Oh yeah, Roger Goodell, easy. It's not really a contest. I just was gonna give it a couple seconds for a dramatic effect. But yeah, Roger Goodell, at least in almost any aspect of the game. Even though there's been a lot of trip-ups and he's made some mistakes, he's at least admitted and learned from all this. And even though at some points he seems like a dislike guy with all the boos, he's played into it. It's kind of funny at this point now. But yeah, you got to give credit for Roger Goodell for being able to push the envelope forward for the NFL at almost every point, when it just seems like the MLB, not so much at some points.
Now, he drops the deflated ball when it comes to Tom Brady.
Yeah.
But he still continues to grow the game.
Yeah,
exactly.
There's I'm with you guys. It's an easy pick for me too, and I think Roger Goodell is a certified bozo 99% of the time. But you look at Rob Manfred, he's certified 100% of the time. I mean, so that's how it is. Like, you look at Roger Goodell, and yeah, it can never go. You know, the rest of his career as a commissioner, he can say, look what we did during COVID-19. Like, we didn't miss a game. Yep. We had a game on every day of the week, but we didn't miss a game, man. It was crazy. We had a draft that was wildly successful. This past year, we set record numbers again with the draft. As you said, Zach, the game continues to grow.
Yep.
Anything the NFL puts their hands on, it's immediate attention. Yep. I mean, the schedule release is like a holiday for a lot of people in the league. You know, we were thrilled to see where games are going to go. It's crazy. No other sport is like that, especially not Rob Manfred.
Well, and you look at, you know, the players all agreed to it, but there were a lot of people that were up in arms over adding a 17th game.
I know, yeah.
That whatever game that is going to be one of the higher watched games. Like, it doesn't matter. Right? The NFL brand continues to grow.
Yeah, we're Roger Goodell fans over here much more than sorry excuse.
I would, if I had $150,000 to watch a game in a basement with old Roger, I would spend it
in the lazy chair.
Hell yeah!
And then he'd have to boo him, but he'd also like kind of ruin it because he'd laugh.
Come on,
yeah.
You're not loud enough, Zach.
Don't acknowledge it, man. When
you only serve light beer, really light beer.
When he started acknowledging the booze, I was like, come on.
That's the end of it.
That's the end of it. We can't do it anymore.
Well, because when you got to like the 15th pick, you weren't really hearing. The only boos I heard were from Cleveland fans whenever they brought Baltimore up, or they brought a Bengal up, or they brought a former Pittsburgh
it's like,
player.
You know, last year when it was all virtual, they even had like Bud Light sponsored the whole thing, like booing Roger Goodell and all this. And it was like, all right, it's been officially acknowledged. Now it's ruined.
Roger Goodell strikes me as someone like if you walk into his house, it's nothing but like advertisers like gear. Like he exclusively drinks Bud Light.
Yeah.
You know, whoever the TV brand is. You know, he doesn't have an iPhone because Microsoft tablets are on the sidelines.
He's got so many Microsoft Surfaces, he doesn't know what to do with them.
He's got one in every house, every room of his house. You got to go to the bathroom and get that Surface. Make sure you disinfect it with this advertiser's disinfectant spray.
Please, can we have an iPad? It's Microsoft Surface or die around here.
We're a Microsoft family.
And we always will be. Damn it. This is the Afternoon Sports Drive. When we come back, we'll round out the show and we'll tell you what we learned. That's coming up next. Welcome back in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, Levi Peckinpah. We're rocking and rolling here at the NCAA Golf Regional. Karsten Creek in Oklahoma State has dominated today, currently sitting at -9 on the day as they have just about 3 holes left to play here before action round finishes up here in this final round. The top 5 teams will advance, and right now you've got Auburn and Baylor really fighting for that 5th spot at the moment. It's a battle royale out there for them. Coverage today brought to you by UCFCU, 311 East of McElroy, and Advantage Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 405-780-6637. Before we say goodbye, we're going to tell you what we learned.
Coming to an end. Time to find out if these two got any smarter. Let's find out what the guys learned today on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Well, I learned something today.
So I learned that Dan Campbell, who is taking over in his first season with the Detroit Lions, is really pitching an idea that could maybe get some more fans out there to Detroit just to see. And certainly they need help in that department because I don't think the product on the field is going to be that fun to watch. But Dan Campbell said on Pardon My Take with Barstool, he was talking about the fact that, you know what, we're the Lions. Well, he said, quote, I would love to literally just have a pet lion. Just a legit pet lion on a chain, a big-ass chain, was his quote talking about it being at Ford Field. He said, you know what, we're behind the kicker when he's kicking. We're just there we are. I mean, think about it. It'd be outstanding.
The people that are pushing this, it's like those Chick-fil-A commercials, eat more chicken, and it's the cows. Mm-hmm. Like, you got a bunch of lions out there like, oh hell yeah, let's get a pet lion. Yeah, it's because they're hungry. Like there's no way. Like I get like maybe having a live bison on the sidelines if you're Colorado, or like a 2,000-pound longhorn. You know, we're talking like docile animals that
fights the bulldog,
grazing animals.
Georgia.
Or having a dog on the sidelines, but like. Maybe not like a 2,000-pound jungle cat.
Man-eating cat.
Jungle cat.
This was hilarious. They were asking him about, like, okay, let's get down to some of these logistics. And he's like, well, you know, we would just walk around the building.
There's no way.
We would just go outside to practice. Just to avoid
he just lives in the
any
stadium.
Risk. Yeah. It's when I said that, I was like, Dan Campbell, he's already given us so many sound bites that are just so great, and now, you know, we want the live lion at the games, and I'm thinking, you know, that would look amazing. You would sell tickets based on, you know, that alone. People would be like, you can see a lion out there on the sideline.
Just team up with the Detroit Zoo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Have them bring in a lion.
The second it gets loose by any means.
That's it.
I mean, you got to have like trained tranquilizers at this thing all game long. It's like, yeah, make sure.
This is why we can't have anything nice, because little Timmy got eaten.
He got eaten, and this is worse than the Harambe situation. God rest his precious soul.
You know it would be Harambe 2.0. Like if they had to put this lion down because it ate someone, it'd be the end of the world.
Yeah, with Harambe, you were just thinking that he might drown the kid or flip him around and he just bangs his head off the wall or something. You wouldn't eat him. But with the lion, you'd eat him. He would eat the guy. Yeah, or the
One
kid.
bite.
Yeah, so he would definitely have to be put down
One
too.
bite. Everybody knows the rules.
I just think I love the pictures in my head of it are great, but the logistics. Come on,
The
now.
only way they'd be able to do this is if they did like what LSU did, and they built a zoo-quality lion enclosure outside the stadium or on the concourse level.
Or you could add on inside the stadium and sell tickets individually.
Yeah.
After you come in, and it's like, okay, by the way, for $50 extra, you can come down and it's like a little
See the
zoo.
lion.
You can view the lion and say
We've got
hi.
him. We've got him tranquilized. You can go
He's-
into the
he's
cage
cur-
and
yeah,
pet him.
He's currently unconscious.
Cuddle
It's
up,
fine.
take a
Take
picture.
a picture. If he and disclaimer, if he wakes up and eats you, sorry.
That you signed the waiver.
It's not against us.
Sorry.
Do not hold
You
us.
didn't read the fine print. That's not on us.
How long until Lions fans are begging that they feed Jared Goff to the Lions?
Day one.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know who they play game one, but it's into the first quarter.
We're sick of it. Feed him to the Lions. New quarterback. We
my
miss
gosh.
Matt Stafford.
So I was going to go with Stanford, saying that they are not going to cancel the 11 sports. Which
about that?
this is the first time I've seen the actual list of the 11 proposed sports that were going to get canceled. I don't understand why people are up in arms. Men's and women's fencing, field hockey, lightweight rowing, men's rowing. I could see maybe rowing and wrestling. Those are the two. Co-ed and women's sailing, squash, synchronized swimming, men's volleyball, and wrestling. There are two on this list that I could see people genuinely being upset for, and that's rowing and wrestling, because those are I could see that.
And I think you're even stretching with rowing. Like, I can see where
Right.
you're coming from, but that's probably a stretch.
But like, field hockey is the worst sport I've ever watched in my entire life.
Yeah.
I was subjected to 15 minutes of it the other day when I was waiting for the OSU softball game. The worst thing I've ever seen in my life, and it was a shootout, and I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not going with Stanford bringing back 11 sports, which I think is awesome.
That's wild.
And the reason they're doing it in the release, it said bolstered by an improved financial picture with increased fundraising potential. That's because you got all these dorky rich people like, my 14-year-old daughter's wanted to play Stanford squash
Exactly.
since she was born. I refuse to.
I like
let
how
the
they
sport go
spun that,
under."
though. Like, that's give some raises to your PR team. That's well worded.
Yeah, no doubt. But I'm going with Tony La Russa because Tony La Russa continues to be an absolute joke. An absolute joke. So he's going off on Mercedes' 3-0 home run. He goes, quote, "The fact that he's a rookie and excited helps explain why he just was clueless. But now he's got a clue." And if you're wondering about that, it's because just before that, he comes out and he said he made a mistake. There will be consequences he has to endure here within our family. I don't want to play for an organization that thinks hitting a home run is a mistake.
Look, that's what people were worried about with Tony La Russa coming in, because he is the definition of old school manager.
Yeah.
He lived and breathed the unwritten rules. Hell, he probably wrote a few of them back in the day.
He
that's
probably
when
unwrote the unwritten.
Exactly. I mean, that's when he so this doesn't really surprise me all that much, but to that extent where he's like he's going to be punished? Like, what?
My God.
Come on.
And then blaming, well, he's a rookie.
So?
That's the problem. You need more guys like this that make the game exciting.
Yeah, and that's where the fear, again, was with bringing in Tony La Russa, and I have to think that with the players, too, is the same way. Like, we want to play for the guy that's going to get upset if we do these things that are now commonplace.
Chicago baseball on all levels has been so bad for so long, and you're finally starting to play well, where you're getting bandwagoners from Oklahoma like Levi cheering for your baseball team, and all of a sudden you don't want exciting baseball.
That's the thing. The White Sox are one of the best, one of the most exciting teams in baseball.
But let's put it into it.
And part of the excitement was kind of bringing in Tony La Russa back. It was like, cool,
And
he gets to come back and manage.
And that's the problem, is Tony La Russa is going to get credit for this resurgence of, like, when we look back in the annals of history and the Chicago White Sox were successful, they're like, oh my God, it was Tony La Russa. It's Tony La Russa. Wrong. No. He's going to get a job next year.
It was Ozzie Guillen, okay? It was Ozzie Guillen. Look, I love Tony La Russa, man. I mean, he is my favorite manager I think I've ever watched, but he's wrong on this. Plain and simple wrong on this. Levi, would you agree with that?
Very much so. This is a point where I will say, go cry me a river. Seriously, if you're that upset about this, cry a river and just stop it, please. I mean, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal at all. It's kind of honestly hilarious that Minnesota was that terrible that your Mercedes just went yard. It's just funny at this point.
Yeah, come on.
If you're upset about it, just strictly go cry me a river. there ain't anything else about it.
Yeah, come on, Tony. Come on now. You got to get with the program, man. This has been the Afternoon Sports Drive live from the NCAA Golf Regional at Carson Creek, where Oklahoma State is about to be crowned champion here in